Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I am Ryan Linkletter. I'm here with my co-host Brady Penn. We are back in the film room, and we are taking a look at the Super Bowl where the Eagles absolutely blew out the Chiefs. We're going to take a look at what both sides did well. The Chiefs, not much, and obviously the Eagles on both sides of the wall dominated this game. Brady and me are going to break this down for you guys, give you guys the X's and O's and kind of why the Eagles were able to control this thing from start to finish. Brady, why don't you start here with the first play of the game?
Yeah, so this was one thing that I thought the Chiefs didn't do enough of, especially after having success with it in this opening drive with this play and with the opening drive against Buffalo, which is the RPO. I mean, you just give another team different looks here to defend. So you're going to have Xavier Worthy come across, come back over the orbit motion, which brings Cooper DeJean towards him. Cooper DeJean actually lined up a few times on Xavier Worthy. This time he heads to the outside right there towards Worthy. You see him shove Juju Smith-Schuster inside. Mahomes fakes the handoff. Let's get back here real quick. Mahomes fakes the handoff on the RPO motion, gets the arm angle, shoots a laser in there to Juju Smith-Schuster for a first down gain on the Chiefs' opening offensive play.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about this Chiefs offense, right? The RPOs have been a big part of them being successful in this, last 4 to 5 game stretch. They open up with it right away. It gets Mahomes comfortable seeing what they're going to look at the rest of the game. DeJean's obviously going to work a lot more in that flat zone throughout the rest of this game. They're able to hit it in the middle of the field with Juju Smith-Schuster and Brady. I might be wrong here, but we didn't see a play call like this again the rest of the game to where
I don't think so.
they
I
didn't
really
work the
don't.
middle of the field on an RPO option the rest of the game. They tried to get a flat, I think, one or two more times. Besides that, they completely went away from it, which makes no sense. This play worked really well against Buffalo. It's wide open here against Philly. We saw Zach Ertz against the championship game with the Commanders have a big game over the middle as well. And, it's just wide open right away. It's one of the first plays in here we're going to talk about with the play calling that was a little suspect in this game as well.
Yeah, so here next play, I think I kind of nailed it in what the Eagles needed to do, which is exactly what they did: is play man-to-man coverage and challenge these receivers. These are talented receivers. These are fast receivers. I don't think they're the best downfield receivers in the world. I don't think they're the best man separators, especially DeAndre Hopkins. We'll talk about him. I've got a few thoughts a little bit later on DeAndre Hopkins and his lack of impact this playoffs. But these are not the greatest guys against man coverage. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy's obviously a rookie. He showed some moments when the game was out of reach, but the Eagles here, they're just going to run a four-man front, and they're going to run man coverage across the board. You're going to have Samaje Perine with Zach Bond manned up on him. You got Cooper DeJean on Travis Kelce. I think that's Isaiah Rodgers down here on Hollywood Brown, I want to say. Darius Slay man-to-man. But just look across the board. Mahomes gets to the top of his drop. No one's open here. Everybody is completely stuck. You've got the free safety Blankenship looking for work. Everybody else is just completely covered up. Mahomes has to escape pressure, rolls to his left, tries to spin back around. Hollywood Brown really not able to get any kind of space, and Mahomes just tries to chuck this one up towards Brown, and it's broken up, setting the tone for the Eagles defense. They force a 3 and out. They cause chaos without bringing any blitzers, and they get the Chiefs off the field really quickly after not scoring on their first offensive possession.
Yeah, and that's not even like at that point, right? Mahomes has to scramble a little bit. The pass rush isn't necessarily a thought in his mind. Gets hit on that play. Many suspect that he got a concussion there. I am not going to buy into that. He played like shit, and there's no excuse for that. Who knows if he was actually concussed on that play or not? He took a pretty big hit, but like you mentioned, these routes down the field, man, this is the biggest thing that I know we haven't really talked about this in a while. This is where they miss Rashee Rice so much. Is Rashee Rice is their best man separator. I know Xavier Worthy is going to be a great player in this league. Worthy isn't where Rashee Rice was in the beginning of this season, towards the end of this season. Right, or Worthy's getting there. He's a really good player. Like we'll see the play later in the game where like I think the Chiefs offense needs to get back to next year. But like outside of that, Travis Kelce, right? He's stuck in the middle of the field right here. He was covered the entire play. Marquise Brown just hasn't been separating in man coverage at all. And, it was a little bit disappointing in the playoffs this year. DeAndre Hopkins, not the same type of separation he had once in his career. Samaje Perine's obviously a running back out there, not necessarily the first route. Juju Smith-Schuster, not a man separator as well. Like, they don't have guys that can win in man coverage, and it really limits what they can do from an offensive standpoint. and Mahomes has to hold on to the ball, try to make a play, takes an unnecessary hit on this play. And, it kind of sets the tone that, man, this is going to be tough for the Chiefs if the Eagles are able to eventually get home. Or in the secondary, it makes it really easy when they're clamping up. Mahomes has to buy around, try to make a play like he does so many times, just not able to do it here. And this play definitely set the tone that it was going to be hard on the Chiefs. And to note, 0 run plays on this first drive, Brady. 0 run plays.
Yeah, that was definitely an issue. Now, when we get to the next play here, this is Philadelphia. Once we get another rewind of this Hollywood Brown incompletion, Philadelphia talked about it last night. They, with this juggernaut of an offensive line, Spags, as good of a blitz play caller as he is, he was going to have to come with something special. I mean, this is a experienced offensive line, first and foremost, especially, Dickerson, Johnson, Malata, but they're very disciplined. They've seen a lot of looks, and they are very fundamentally sound. That's exactly what you see here. You're going to have Shamari Connor coming in as the blitzer, the nickel back. Everybody else is really accounted for. You're going to have Chris Jones down here at the bottom. I'll let it run here in a second, but Malata pretty much handles Chris Jones one-on-one. Lane Johnson washes Karlaftis outside, but the biggest part of this play is Saquon Barkley. We know him as the ball carrier. We know him as the explosive play guy, but just a completely unselfish blitz pickup here by Saquon Barkley that allows Jalen Hurts the time to unload this football. And by the way, Jalen Watson, I know we talked a lot about him coming back and the positive impact that it would have for the Chiefs, and I think that it did. I think Jalen Watson was not bad in his return, but I think he was bad last night. There will be a few more clips of Jalen Watson getting beat down the field last night. This is one of them. This is Jahan Dotson. At this point, he's got 2 yards of separation on Jalen Watson, and Hurts honestly underthrows it a little bit. Otherwise, it would have been an easy walk-in touchdown. Dotson ended up being down to the 1, but great protection. Get back here to before Hurts letting go of this ball. You just see the time that he has. He's composed. Nobody's really getting in his lap. Karlaftis is kind of closing in, I guess, but he took too wide of an angle. Johnson kind of pushed him to the outside. At that point, it's just pitch and catch. And like I said, the great pickup by Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jalen Watson too. Like, him and McDuffie played pretty bad in this one, and we haven't seen both these guys play bad in the same game, I don't think, all season long. And this play was made by Saquon Barkley picking up this blitz, and it kind of set the tone. The Eagles have a great offensive line, but their running backs pick up blitzes just as good, whether it's Kenneth Gainwell, whether it's Saquon Barkley, and that's why this team rarely gets sacked. We talked about Jalen Hurts struggling against the blitz or being pressured. He rarely gets pressured, so it doesn't really matter. Like, Hurts is able to go make a play with a clean pocket, and this is the matchup that both teams want. The Chiefs want this one-on-one matchup with their cornerback on the top. The Eagles want the one-on-one matchup on the top with their receiver, right? It just didn't work in the Chiefs' favor. The Eagles capitalized on a lot of these one-on-one plays, which is the Chiefs basically scheme on these big-time third downs. I think we'll probably see a few more conversions here for the Eagles on big third downs, but that is one thing this Chiefs defense needs to get better at in 2025 is those third downs. It felt like there were a lot of opportunities this season to get off the field, third and long, and they just didn't do it. And I think they need to adjust what they're doing in the slot cornerback position and potentially at safety to go make those adjustments.
Yeah, and by the way, you talked about Jalen Hurts and his numbers. I was actually really surprised. Just like any other quarterback, when he's under duress, when he's under pressure, the numbers did go down. But, dude, against the blitz in general, Jalen Hurts was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. I think he had a .25 EPA per play all season against the blitz, which I was surprised to find when I was writing my article on Saturday night. And I did say that Jalen Hurts versus the blitz would be one of the big matchups to watch. And I actually thought the Eagles had an advantage there, which proved to be true. So Jalen Hurts, he's a very polarizing quarterback, I will say. I think he did a lot the last 2 games to, kind of dispel some narratives around himself. I know he has a great roster. I know the Eagles had a great team win as a whole, and it's not like Jalen Hurts was just carrying a bunch of bums at all. But I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think we got to give Jalen Hurts his flowers.
He deserves some flowers for sure. He's definitely entered. I think he's no doubt a top 5 quarterback in the league, and he's 5.
Yeah, I got him at 5 too. So next, after this runs back again, we've got the first Chiefs run play, which came with about 5.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. And here's where I think the Chiefs can also add this offseason. I think they need to find an explosive running back. I don't think that that's Isaiah Pacheco. I think that Pacheco is good and he will still be around. I think they're going to try and find somebody on the draft. It could be Devin Neal. We'll see. I think that they could target a running back. I think even Scattaboo from Arizona State is an interesting guy that we could see in this scheme, this system. But just check it out. This is the first run play. It's really not a whole lot of disruption by the Eagles here. And Kareem Hunt is just too slow. It's just too slow to develop here. First off, he runs into Travis Kelce. Like I said, the Eagles only have 4 guys here, but that bump, slow play goes nowhere.
Yeah, like this play is a great example, right? I already complained about obviously not enough run plays early on in this game, but you look at the timing of this play when it loads back, right? Kelsey's out of sync, Kareem Hunt's out of sync, right? The hole is there, right? But they're just not moving at the speed they have been moving at all season long. And, to be honest, like that's the problem with the Chiefs in this game. They looked lethargic. They looked tired. They just were not in sync. They just did not look like a good, sound, fundamental football team in this game. This run's a great example of it when Kelsey runs into the running back and doesn't necessarily do anything with it. And what concerns me is that once Andy Reid saw this play, he was like, man, no more run plays for the Chiefs anymore. And, we didn't really see any more run plays the rest of the game in this one, and it didn't necessarily slow down the Eagles' pass rush much.
So in this game, we saw Patrick Mahomes, I think, just feel a little bit uncomfortable. Part of it was the bad pass protection that he was getting. Part of it was bad footwork. And just all in all, the Eagles were very disruptive. Right here was a good example, though, to me, of a couple of those things. So you're going to see Mahomes take his drop. You're going to see Hollywood Brown coming towards the middle. Travis Kelce is drawing the attention of Oren Burks. And Hollywood Brown, he's open right here. Mahomes, I let the clip run a little too far, but Mahomes could have hit this, I think, right here in the middle with Hollywood Brown open. Instead, he decides to step up, try and get away from the edge rushers. Nolan Smith starts to close in, and then Mahomes just kind of throws up a wild pass too high for Hollywood Brown, and it's another situation where the Chiefs end up having to punt.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first play, I think, where Mahomes just looked different. Like, this just didn't look like normal Mahomes, right? Even if he could have hit Hollywood Brown, I mean, let's see his drop point. You pause it right here, right? He has to see this through. Potentially, it kind of looks like Oren Burks could be in the way of Brown. Maybe he doesn't see that. He feels the edge getting. He steps into the pocket. So I can see maybe he doesn't hit it, but I agree that's probably got to be made. And then you got here, he does step up, right? And then he decides to go to Brown. At this point, this guy's missing the tackle. We've seen, that might be Brandon Graham, right? We've seen plenty of edge rushers miss this tackle against Mahomes. Why is he not running this ball? There's no defender within range of Mahomes to make this play. And this is the first play I'm sitting there. I'm like, he never does that. He never makes that stupid read where he just doesn't run the ball here and goes and gets the first. Instead, he does that. And, the Chiefs have to punt.
Yeah, definitely. So the one good thing I'd say the Chiefs really did throughout the night was containing Saquon Barkley. You talked about the fact that Spags was not going to let Saquon Barkley beat them. And I actually wrote in my article, I think the Chiefs faced 4 of the top 10 yardage rushers in the NFL. And through those 4 games, I think those running backs averaged less than 45 yards a game. It was Bijan Robinson, Chuba Hubbard, Bucky Irving, and Derrick Henry. I don't think any of them eclipsed 65 yards. So they were going to make sure that Jalen Hurts had to beat them with his arm, which is what he did. And I don't want it to be lost on everyone how well they did at defending Saquon Barkley, though. Here, you're going to see 6-7 guys immediately just getting in there and making sure they get the penetration. Drew Tranquil is going to be the one that ends up making the play. He comes off the edge with speed, and he just brings Saquon down to the ground. So that is one thing I did want to give Spags and the Chiefs credit for on a really bad night, was being able to contain the best running back in the league.
Yeah, their front 7, honestly, in the run game was perfect last night. They played really good. Their keys on Jalen Hurts were really good. I think there was only one play where Hurts was able to scramble on a designed run. Besides that, it was scrambles with nobody being a spy in coverage, which hurt him a few times on third down. But their run defense wasn't what beat them yesterday. And if we were to say Saquon had 25 carries for 57 yards, we'd be like, man, the Chiefs won this game by potentially more than one score. So that's definitely interesting. You can head into the next play right here.
Yeah, so here's where the Chiefs just the play calling isn't good, the flow isn't good. You're gonna see the Chiefs try and run a pass play here with I think one, two, three, four, five. I think 7 guys pass protecting here. Kelsey and Pacheco will both be blocking. So it's only 3 men running routes here for the Chiefs. Eagles are only going to bring 4. That means there are 7 guys that are going to be in coverage to defend 3 routes. You see Mahomes looking around. It's not open over the middle. There's 3 defenders in the middle of the field. Hollywood Brown is just standing there at that point. The field side out route is getting jumped on. There's nothing there. Mahomes has to go down. They can't even protect him long enough for a 3-man route concept with 7 men in protection. And this is one of those plays where I won't fault Patrick Mahomes because nothing is open. The blocking isn't good. Kelsey had a horrible blocking performance last night. Pacheco doesn't really do much on the pickup. And just, there's nothing they can do there.
Yeah, that's as bad as it gets. Talk about the play calling, right? Running a 3-man route, protecting like this. Obviously you're expecting potentially that, they run man coverage at least, and you get a better look than this deep zone drop that they got. I want to say that this is a cover 4 look with both safeties over the top. But you look at this, right? Kelsey misses this block. Pacheco also misses a block over here too. It's just bad. Like, this is really bad, offensive line play and really bad coaching at this point. Even if Mahomes tries to get this out route over here, which I don't think is his first read. I think his first read is supposed to be over the middle here, and he looks off of that after that's not open, and then he's just done at that point. That was kind of similar from what we saw, is that if the ball wasn't there on the first read, then Mahomes was kind of cooked at that point.
Yeah, so here's the play where the game really swung, and that is the Cooper DeJean pick 6. And this is on Patrick Mahomes. He said it himself, but this is on Patrick Mahomes. Part of it is how Cooper DeJean plays this and kind of breaking the trend. But what you'll see, DeAndre Hopkins is down here. He's going to be manned up by Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell's about 8-9 yards off, and he's got outside leverage. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be running across, and I'm going to fault Hopkins for this here too, but check it out. So Hopkins, he gets going on his route. Mahomes rolls out to the right. I think that's pretty much who he wants the entire time. Mahomes needs to throw this right now, though. What I'll fault D-Hop on, which you'll see in a second, is D-Hop keeps drifting upfield and giving Quinyon Mitchell a better chance to get to that upfield shoulder, which he eventually does. But right now, he has space. Patrick Mahomes should throw this ball now. There's no one really in the window yet. Cooper DeJean has not decided to break that way yet because he has to respect what's coming to the outside, which is this Xavier Worthy deep out. But then Mahomes rolls a little bit more, throws it. Cooper DeJean, instead of breaking to the outside, which Mahomes said he expected, breaks to the inside, completely takes this football away. Obviously, takes it to the crib, gets a couple of blocks. I think that's Trey Smith getting laid out maybe, and DeJean takes it to the crib. At that point, it's 17-0 and a completely different ballgame than if the Chiefs were able to drive down and make it 10-3 or 10-7.
Yeah, and this is the play that a similar play like this I talked about in the AFC Championship game is Mahomes has a guy open across his body, and he never decides to throw that ball really in the postseason because he knows these are the type of plays that get you in trouble and swing a game potentially in the wrong direction. And that's exactly what happened here. He makes a stupid mistake. And regular season Mahomes, he probably tries this almost every single game. Postseason Mahomes, we rarely see him go out and try to make a superhuman type play like this, where he's completely thrown across his body. D-Hop is on a kind of deep dig here on 3rd and long. And, it's just a stupid play. Like, I understand Mahomes thought DeJean was going to break, but at that point, right, you're trying to do too much. You got to understand that where you are in the field position, your defense is holding up pretty good at this point. Obviously, it's 10-0 and you want to make a play, but live to see another down. At this point, you make it really tough. And they still even had more chances after this to potentially make it a game, and they just couldn't do it by any means. And this is, like I said, once Mahomes made that decision on 3rd and short to not scramble and throw the ball over Hollywood Brown's head, I thought his decision-making was off from that point on.
Yeah, definitely. And you're going to see another example of it on this next play coming up. Fast forward a little bit here on the pick 6. We already all saw it probably a million times on social media. But so right here, Mahomes, first off, another example I don't like of bad play calling. Pretty much Travis Kelce's in here blocking. He's going to get a delayed release. But all 3 of the guys that Mahomes really could hit are to the field side. And Mahomes is obviously on the boundary here. So there's nowhere for him to really go regardless, there are 4 guys defending 3 pass catchers over here on the field side, but then the pressure comes in. And here's where I think Mahomes makes a mistake. Mahomes, to me, can keep taking this to the outside and run, maybe get the first down. He's got Kelsey blocking a defender, and at that point, it turns into a one-on-one between Mahomes and a linebacker, which I like Mahomes to win that race. But instead, Mahomes circles back the other way, tries to continue the play, runs into his own offensive lineman, and takes another sack when I think he should have taken off.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I probably blame him more for the one earlier that I was talking about. I think I could see his decision making for this. He thinks potentially this defensive end at this point out leveraged him, and that's why he went backwards. But I mean, this is a Mike Caliendo play, Brady. I mean, this guy gets spun around by his defender. He's sitting there and then basically gets Mahomes sacked because Mahomes spins right into him. I mean, Caliendo was just, I know it worked for a few weeks, and I know they played good pass rushing teams, but they never played a good pass rushing team where it was from the interior pass rushers. That's where they got exposed. You know, Trey Smith is an all-world run blocker, but to be honest, Brady, he's a little underwhelming in pass protection, and he has been at times this season. And it's an interesting thing because obviously they have the hole at left tackle, right? Jawan Taylor has been okay. I think he's overpaid, but he's been okay, right? I don't know what they're going to do at the guards. Obviously, they're going to slot Tooney back at left guard, but it's going to be Trey Smith that's going to be interesting. And you talk about the route concepts here. I mean, this is a 3rd and 8, and they are running a deep flood concept. It almost looks like. I mean, it looks like they're trying to push the ball down the field at times, but I mean, it's just not there at this point. And you know why it's not there? There's 0 run game established. They refused to run the ball, and it was just a piss poor all around performance.
Yeah, definitely. And here comes another bad play. What was crazy is Mahomes, I believe, like his last 8 plays of the first half were pretty much all terrible. 2 of them, I think, were called back by a penalty. There were 2 interceptions, 3 or 4 sacks. Like, just absolutely nothing was working out. And then, like you said last night, this was, to me, way worse than the Tampa Bay game was, like, on all fronts by the Chiefs. But right here, this is Mahomes' second interception. I know you can, I think, accredit a little bit of this to Mahomes getting bumped by, I think it's Tooney, but this is a bad decision to me. This is a bad read, especially deep in your own territory. Mahomes is going to bring Worthy across in motion. You're going to get the coverage indicator. He's going to make his drop, and he's basically the whole time going to want Hollywood Brown, who's coming across. He doesn't really have the time to wait for him to clear Zach Bond, but he kind of tries to throw this with the anticipation and timing, gets bumped a little bit. Brown has not cleared Zach Bond at this point, and Zach Bond makes an incredible play. Let it keep rolling. This will be the rear angle right here of it and give you a little bit better of a gauge of what happened here. So he's at his drop, and we see Josh Sweat, who I mentioned last night, overpowering Joe Tooney. Mahomes knows what he wants right here. Brown's getting vertical. He's going to try and get across Zach Bond, and Mahomes is going to try and just float this a little bit over him. I still think that even clean, he shouldn't have let go of this ball right here. I think that Joe Tooney messed up the timing and anticipation of this play, which is the story of the whole Chiefs passing game all night. It was timing was off. This is a timing-based offense. Obviously, that West Coast type RPO scheme, timing-based offense. I would not have thrown this ball right here. It was an incredibly athletic play. I would have, I don't know. No, I don't think I would have thrown that right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a good decision by any means. I'm thinking like he holds on. I think Tooney hitting him 100% affected that throw, but to be honest, I don't fault him for the throw and what happened when he released it as much as his pocket presence here. His pocket presence for me is where I think he went wrong.
Yeah, I think he had room to step up or to the right.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. He has room. Trying to get the exact frame here. It should be, I went a little far. You pause it right here. Look, he could step up in this pocket by himself for a second. And if he stares at Bond and almost looks to his right a little bit, he still has Hollywood Brown. So if he steps up, I understand you can't really tell if Sweat's getting to you right now because this is within a second of Sweat hitting him on the throw. So it's almost a millisecond he has to make this decision. But he should have stepped up. It would have given him a clean pocket to throw from. And to be honest, if he doesn't get hit, I think he makes it wouldn't have been interceptable if he doesn't get hit. The Tooney hit affected this throw, but his pocket presence on this play was pretty poor. And to be honest, this would have been a big gain for the Chiefs, and it would have been 17 and them moving the ball. and they had another chance at halftime, and it would have been a different game. But nope, the Eagles get the ball in the red zone, and it becomes 24-0 quickly, and it becomes a steep mountain to climb. And I don't think we thought they were out of the game at that point either, which is crazy to think about.
No, I definitely didn't. But then you get to this next play. This is where time is really starting to run out for the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. This is fourth down. It's 27-0 at this point with about 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Going to be a simple out route here from DeAndre Hopkins, who honestly wins his rep. I mean, this DB is still pointing, trying to get Darius Slay to come down on this, which is obviously not happening. I don't know if this is a footwork thing for Mahomes or if he just puts a little bit behind him, but that's what we see is just throw a little bit behind DeAndre Hopkins. I think that's Sidney Brown, get over to it. I think that Mahomes can make that throw. I think that's a throw that he makes 9.5 out of 10 times. And at this point, the game was just kind of snowballing. I'm sure he wasn't quite as confident as he normally is. Again, this DB still has his shoulders towards the line of scrimmage. He is not out of this break like Hopkins is. And Mahomes just gives him a chance to recover and pretty much puts this one out of reach. But before I let you get into that play, it immediately feeds right into what I think was the best throw of Jalen Hurts' career. And I know it was 27-0, so it's easy to have this kind of mindset. But I appreciated this from the Eagles. They're not trying to run out clock. They're not trying to do any of that. This is a FU throw. This is a let's put the game away throw. Perfect protection here on the play action. I mean, he's going to have all day. You've got, looks like 5-6 guys in the box right there, and Hurts is pretty much throwing routes on air. You see Jalen Watson at the top of your screen, already beat by a yard or two by Devontae Smith. Once again, honestly does a decent job recovering, and it doesn't matter because Jalen Hurts just puts an absolute dime on Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I mean, these two plays were some of the game, right? And I don't even have to go back to tell you guys this. The Chiefs' timing was just completely off in this one. It was just off, and the thing is about this Chiefs offense, Brady mentioned it earlier, when their timing is off, it looks really, really bad. And you're like, man, this team kind of stinks at football. And it's a timing-based offense. They have to have good timing. It's not one of these like Kyle Shanahan schemes to where you could run the ball, run the play action off of it, and you could kind of get back on that script. If you're in this West Coast spread offense style that the Chiefs love to run at times, right, it's hard to be able to consistently move the ball on drives when your timing always gets messed up every other play. It is an offense that needs to be within rhythm. It is an offense that has a lot of short underneath passes that get Mahomes a read of the pressure, or not the pressure, the coverage, and then it allows them to take that deep shot down the field eventually. And, that just hasn't been the case this year, but the timing was much better this year than we saw. And then on the Eagles side of things, Jalen Watson, played a bad game, but the timing was there. The Eagles understood we have our one-on-one matchups. So we're going to take these one-on-one matchups and we're going to win them. And I think they almost won every single one of these one-on-one matchups last night when it mattered. It was a true game where the disparity between both sides was just crazy. I don't think we've seen many games like this at all this year to where it's just been so one-sided in every single category.
Yeah, I mean, even from the jump, even on the OPI, A.J. Brown winning on Trent McDuffie, I know got called back, but I was like, wow, that was a one-on-one win on Trent McDuffie. You don't see that often, and it kind of just kept continuing that way all game, not just on McDuffie, but on the Chiefs as a whole. And I'll let you take it away. This is the final play. This is the one you wanted. This is Xavier Worthy. This is after the Gatorade bath, but go ahead and run us through this, maybe a preview of what we could see a little bit more next year.
This is the thing, right? When have we seen Patrick Mahomes actually do this or have the opportunity, let's say, to do this in a game in a long time? I mean, this is what you get. You get a 70-yard ball in the air, absolute right in his breadbasket where he just says, I'm going to throw this as far as I can. Xavier Worthy is going to run out of the ball. This play is from Tyreek Hill when he was on the Chiefs, and they used to run it a lot, right? The reason why the Chiefs have been unsuccessful on deep shots in the last 2 years, it's partly because Mahomes has been off, but it is because they don't do it enough. This offense completely does not even show deep looks enough to where they can feel confident into consistently doing it. We talk about on the show how Mahomes almost had the yips at some points this season with the deep ball to where he was underthrowing or missing receivers, and that's just because they don't do it enough, right? They have these opportunities. They have the speed to do it, and when you get protection like they did on this play, they should be able to do it. And Xavier Worthy has developed a route tree at this point in his career to where he should be able to beat teams over the top, Brady. Guess what? I have breaking news. Teams run 2 high safeties against other teams besides the Kansas City Chiefs, and those other teams can figure it out. And you're telling me Andy Reid, who is supposed to probably be the best offensive-minded coach in NFL history, has not figured that out yet? I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to get back to this next year. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but I mean, this is what they needed more often this season, and it's not like they didn't have it in them. Yeah, the offensive line was bad. Yeah, some of the weapons were obviously hurt during the season, but this is what we expected from the Chiefs offense more this season prior to the injuries, prior to the offensive line being really bad this season. This is what the Chiefs offense was supposed to have in their arsenal, and they didn't have their fastball this year, and this is why they wound up coming up short when they needed it most.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting to see, like we talked about last night, what personnel changes they make offensively, who gets added, who isn't there next year. I kind of think, though, we can go ahead and chalk up DeAndre Hopkins not being back. I don't see him being with the Chiefs again next year. Hollywood Brown is a maybe, but could see some other shakeups with Rice coming back. So who knows? Chiefs are going to be back next year. But I will say, I did do some research after we talked last night. Out of the last 20 Super Bowl losers, you want to know how many went back to the Super Bowl the next year?
3 or 4. 1.
It was the 2018 Patriots after losing to the Eagles. They're the only team in the last 20 years to make it back. I think 5 teams have made the conference championship after losing the year before, including the Chiefs in 2021, but only 1 team has made it back. And that's, who knows? The Chiefs have bucked a lot of trends, so who knows if that'll hold weight or not. But it'll be interesting to keep an eye on next year.
Yeah, and I definitely think like this is going to be the 3rd iteration of the Chiefs roster we're going to get. We obviously had the Tyreek trade where it completely blew things up, changed the roster. We had this 2022 draft class.
Yep.
Those guys are about to get paid. Some of those guys are going to be not on the team anymore. And this is going to be a new version of the Chiefs starting next year. And you know what's going to happen in the offseason, Brady? Everybody's going to be like, the Chiefs are not the Chiefs. The Chiefs are done. The dynasty's over. It's going to be the same script that we had a few years ago. And, you know, I'm just going to say what I've learned really covering football these last few years is if you have an alien type quarterback, you're going to be just fine. You know, Josh Allen, people did it to him this offseason. You know what? The Bills were just fine. Patrick Mahomes, we did it to him a few years ago. He was just fine, right? Whatever happens with Joe Burrow and the Bengals this year, I'm probably not going to bet against them next year because Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. You got to trust the elite quarterbacks when you see them. And guys, we need to throw Jalen Hurts' name in that conversation now. He is officially in the 2nd tier of top quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and now Jalen Hurts. Hurts is obviously at the end of that category, but Hurts deserves his flowers. He's a Super Bowl MVP, got a ring, and who knows, right? He might even have an MVP under his belt if he didn't get hurt in 2022. It would have been close. But we'll see what we get from the Eagles next year. If they stay healthy, man, they still have the best roster in football, and they're already talking about running it back. And, I mean, every team does it every single year. But what do you think of the Eagles' chances next year?
We'll see. I think a lot of it depends on Saquon because I talked about this before. How many times have we seen the top running back in a season go ahead and dominate the same way the next year? Derrick Henry dominated in 2020. He didn't do it the next year. CMC dominated last year. Obviously, he had the injuries this year. Jonathan Taylor dominated, might have been 2021. He was hurt the next year. Josh Jacobs in 2022. He was hurt the next year. Lost himself some money. So we'll see. I think that a lot of times these all-time great running back years and these top of the league years are such a heavy workload that it's tough to do it again 2 years in a row. So we'll see. Obviously, Saquon's a really well-conditioned athlete. He has had injuries before, but we'll see. I think it'll come down to Saquon and his health. I think the defense, as long as they bring Vic Fangio back, whether Bond is back or not, they'll still be a good unit. That's a great DC. We'll see. Jalen Hurts should only get better in theory, so it'll be interesting to check out what happens because Smith, Brown, Goddard, they should all still be around. They'll definitely be one of the 2-3 best teams in the NFC.
100%. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this film breakdown of the Super Bowl. Hopefully we made it a little bit more entertaining than the game actually was after the second quarter. So hit that subscribe button for more content all this offseason, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yes, sir.